Dear students, it is another new day when we are going to continue with Knowledge Area 4. If you remember, in the last session, we ended with Knowledge Area 3. Now, for today, we are going to continue with Knowledge Area 4. The Knowledge Area 4 for OPA 103 is about local government reforms. So, I welcome you all to enjoy this new knowledge area, local government reforms. But before we start this Knowledge Area 4, it is important to remind ourselves in some of the terms that we discussed in the previous sessions. And some of these terms are centralization. What does centralization mean? It is just reminding ourselves, because by understanding these terms, we will be sure that this new knowledge area, which is about local government reforms, will be easier to you. So, centralization simply means the concentration of decision-making powers in few hands. That the decision-making powers concentrates in few hands of the people. Last time we said that it is a decentralizing decision-making powers. But when these powers are decentralized, still they remain within the few hands of the people. Centralization again is a systematic and consistent reservation of authority at central point in the organization. That the decision-making power remains at the center. Let's take an example. That there might be that very few people, maybe within the regions or within the central government, are having powers to decide on various issues that affect people's lives. So when decision-making powers have been given to few people, that is centralization. Again, it is the important and key decisions are taken by top management, and the other levels are into implementation as per the direction of the top management. That the decision-making powers within an organization are taken by the top management only. Let's take an example of the university. The top management of the university consists of maybe a chancellor, a vice chancellor, the deputy vice chancellors, the deans, and the directors. So the when the decision-making powers is taken by the top management, in this example of the university, that when the decision-making powers is taken by the council only, or by the chancellor, or by the university council, or by the deputy vice chancellors only, we call that as centralization. In the local government, the decision-making powers might be taken by maybe the council director only, without involving the district or the municipal council. In the case of the central government, when the decision-making powers have been taken by maybe the president and ministers, we call that as centralization. We continue with centralization. We say that the operations and functions are closely controlled. The policies, practices, and procedures are characterized with uniformity. There is a maximum utilization of centralized experts and personnel. The central government examines and inspects the local administrative operations. It controls the local finance and audits local accounts. Why do we need to understand centralization? We need to understand centralization because the topic, the knowledge area number 4, which is about on the local government reforms, talks about these issues. So, centralization, concentration of power. The decision-making powers are put in the center. Now, let's see another term. Another term is about the decentralization. What does decentralization mean? Decentralization means to hand over political, financial, and administrative authority from the central to the local government, so that the government can facilitate and guarantee better public service for the people. That is decentralization. If you remember, in the previous sessions, we discussed again the term decentralization. So by reminding ourselves, decentralization means handing over, giving powers from the central government to the local government. What powers? The financial powers, the administrative powers, the political powers. Why do we handle over administrative powers, political powers, and financial powers from the central government to the local government? It is because we want to guarantee a better public service to the local people. Let's continue. We need to hand over administrative powers, the powers to administer resources and matters delegated to them. This is decentralization. We hand over administrative powers. What are these powers? These are the powers to control the resources that have been given to the local government. But the fiscal powers, the powers to raise and retain financial resources to fulfill their responsibilities. Now, we have the types of decentralization. And one of it is deconcentration, another one is devolution, and the other one is delegation. Let's move together. Deconcentration means it is the process of handling some administrative powers. Keep in mind the word some. It is a process of handling some administrative responsibilities to the lower level within the central government. This refers to the transfer of authority adequate to discharge specified functions to staff situated outside headquarters. Handling some administrative responsibility, not all. When you want to understand the word deconcentration, you need to put in mind the word some. So in deconcentration, only some of the responsibilities are handled over. Some of the responsibilities are taken to the lower levels to discharge them. The process by which the agents of central government control and reallocate and geographically disperse. Let's continue. What does the word devolution means? Devolution means giving power to discharge specified functions, as it is seen in this slide, that we need to give power to discharge some specified function. For instance, local authority is strengthened and formally given power to decide on range of public matters which are limited within specified area of jurisdiction. A local government can be entrusted with some power to discharge some specified functions, and that's what we call devolution. Now let's go to the last word, delegation. The word delegation refers to transfer of managerial responsibility for specified function to other public organizations outside normal central government control. It also means transfer of authority and power to lower levels of government. Means transfer of authority and power to the local government. Dear students, it was important for us to understand these words before starting the knowledge area number 4, which is about the local government reforms. Now, let's go together and see when did the local government reform start? What was the intention of it? In what areas did it focus on? And why? Why? What are the reasons that influenced the government to undergo into the local government reform? I welcome you again in Knowledge Area 5, and it is my hope that you will enjoy. Local government reforms. Decentralization of the government and reform of local government included the 4 main policy areas. But before we see these 4 main policy areas, let me take some time in telling you why did we have local government reform programs. As you know, and as the previous sessions told us, that the history of the local government, which were re-established in 1982, continued to exist, and they continued to implement the functions that they were empowered by the law. Now it came into notice that a number of local governments were unable to implement the functions, and they were unable to attain their goals. So the government sought to have a certain decision on which it can help to improve the situation of the local governments in order to make sure that the local government attains its goals. Now, that's why the government decided to move into local government reforms. The local government reforms started in 1996. As I've said, they started after the realization that the local government were not implementing their objectives. They were not implementing their functions as they were required by the law. Therefore, the local government reforms had 4 main policy areas. What are these areas? The area number 1 was on the political decentralization. If you remember what the word decentralization means, we say that decentralization means to handle over political, financial, administrative authority from the central to the local governments, so that the government can facilitate and guarantee better public service to the people. Now, the first policy area of the local government reform was the political decentralization. What was it aimed in political decentralization? In the leaders to be elected at the local level and not to be appointed by other bodies. The central government aimed at making sure that the leaders who are leading within the local level, leaders who are leading in the village, here I mean the village chairperson, leaders who are leading in the Vitongoji chairpersons, leaders who are leading in the wards, the councillors are elected and not appointed. Therefore, the political decentralization aimed at giving the local people powers to elect their own leaders. That was one of the aim of handing over political decentralization powers to the local people. Not only that, political decentralization aims at elected leaders be in a position to make decisions, that these leaders who are elected are in the position of making decisions on behalf of the people. They are in the position of representing the local people on various decision-making bodies within the local governments. Not only that, but the political decentralization aimed at giving the local people power to make decisions on matters that affected their own lives. Not only that, the political decentralization aimed at giving the local people power of making the local leaders accountable on their actions. How could the local leader be made accountable? It is through election and meetings that are held in the local governments. Another area of local government reforms was on the financial decentralization. What was the aim of the financial decentralization? And as you know that a person could tell you that I'm giving you this responsibility to perform on my behalf. But if that person has not given you financial responsibility or financial powers to perform that responsibility, you can end up not performing it. All responsibilities, all development projects and all issues depend on financial decision, financial powers. Now, the government aimed at giving the local government the financial powers. What was the aim of giving the local government the financial powers? Listen. Councils have discretionary powers and powers to levy local taxes. That the local government need to have powers to collect local tax. Not only collecting local tax, but preparing budgets on how they can utilize these local tasks for the development of the local people. Therefore, they aim at giving discretionary powers to collect, powers to levy local taxes. That was the greatest aim of financial decentralization. But not only that, the financial decentralization also, the principle also allows the local council to pass their own budgets, as I've said, reflecting their own priorities as well as mandatory expenditures required by legislation setting national standards. So, they aimed at giving the local people powers to prepare the local budgets. And do you know how this local budget is prepared? The local budget is prepared starting from the local levels, where the local people, the villages, decides on development activities that it aims to attain. Then the decisions that are made within the General Assembly of the villages are then taken to the wards. The ward development committee sits down and sorts out the development activities that have been put down by the villages. Then the wards takes these decisions to the councils. The councils then decides that this and this and this are going to be done in a certain village, in a certain ward. Therefore, the financial responsibility aimed at giving powers to the local people to prepare budget. The central government in turn has the obligation to supply local government with unconditional grants. That is an obligation that the central government will supply some unconditional grants to the local government. These unconditional grants that are supplied to the local government are to be used by the local government in a number of development projects which are raised by the council and which the council have taken them from the local government. We continue. There is another interesting area, a policy area for the local government reform. What's that? It is administrative decentralization. The administrative decentralization involves the linking local authority staff on their respective ministries and procedures for the establishment of a local payroll. Local government will thus recruit their own personnel organized in a way decided by the respective council in order to improve service delivery. Let me remind you one thing. Before local government reform program, all staffs who are working within the local government, they were recruited by the central government. And the central government had a mandate to tell a certain staff that you are going to work maybe in Namtumbo District Council, or you will be working in Kibaha District Council. So the decision of the central government over the staff was very higher compared to the decisions of the local government over the staffs. Therefore, administrative decentralization aimed at giving the local government the powers to recruit their own staff and to put these local staffs in areas where it seems that they had a need of such a particular staff. For instance, there are a number of primary and secondary schools controlled and operated by the local government. Now, teachers who are working in these primary and secondary schools, they are to be directed by the local government authorities. What do I mean? That the local government authorities has power over staff to tell a certain particular staff, maybe staff X, that will be working in this particular secondary or primary school. However, nowadays we have this the recruitment secretariat, which is under the president's office. The secretariat is mandated to recruit all staffs, and these staffs are then sent to the local government, and the local government have powers to decide on which area, on which place this staff will be working. However, this point says that the staffs from their respective ministries and procedures for establishment of the local payroll. The local payroll for these staffs is established by the local government. Again, the administrative decentralization makes local government staff accountable to local councils. If a certain local government have directed a particular staff to work in a particular area, maybe a school or a hospital, that means if this local staff makes any irresponsibility or he fails to perform some of his functions, that means the local government have power to make this staff accountable. And that came because of administrative decentralization under the local government reform. Again, the local government have a body corporate status that they may sue and be sued. The management responsibility of local administration shall reflect this status. That local government have powers to sue and being sued. So if a certain staff commits some problems or some challenges, or if a certain staff have gone contrary to the responsibilities that have been stipulated in the law, the local government authority have the powers to sue this staff, or the local government authority have power to make this staff accountable. There is another local government reform policy area, which is the central local relations. Let's move to this. Central local relations. The role of the central government vis-a-vis local council will be changed. the minister will become policy-making bodies. They will become supportive and capacity-building bodies, monitoring and quality assurance bodies within local government legislation frameworks. And the minister responsible for local government will coordinate central-local relations, and in particular, all initiatives from ministries toward local government, and will be enabled to issue regulations and guidelines, but only within the policy areas to be specified in the law, reflecting the spirit and principles of reform agenda. As you remember yesterday, one of the points that I insisted was about the pressure which is put by the regions over the local government. That the regions are putting a lot of pressure to the local government that we want you to perform A, B, and C. The central local relation policy area requires the minister responsible for local government to become a policy-making body. I repeat again, a policy-making body, not a decision-making body. We want a minister to just become a policy-making body. That minister responsible for the local government, you'll just make policies on how local government will operate and develop, and not to become a deciding body over the local government. But the minister will be a supportive and capacity building body. Minister is there just to support the local government, just to advise, to support it. The local government will now move to the minister, tell the minister that we are failing in areas of ABC, and the minister maybe will send some of the experts to the local government to help it. Or the minister might see any other way of helping the local government to develop. So it is a supportive and capacity building body. Not only that, but the minister is responsible in making sure that there is monitoring and quality assurance in the local government, that the local government is developing. The quality issues are being adhered by the local level. That those are some of the functions of the minister. So what does the central local relations mean? Central means central government. Local means local government. Relationship. So here we have the central government, and the other side we have the local government, and there we need the relations between the central government in one side and the local government in the other side to be harmonized. These are two relations. Here we have the central government in one hand, and in the other hand we have the local government. Now, how can we harmonize this relationship? It is through the minister responsible for the local government. Keep this point in mind, that the minister has not been given power to decide on the various issues pertaining to the local government. No, the minister has been given powers to support the local government attain its responsibilities. Again, in the light of the above vision, some reforms, Local Government Reform Program 1 and Local Government Reform Program 2 were initiated and implemented. Basing on those 4 main areas that we have discussed, basing on those 4 main areas that I have presented before you, it was important to have Local Government Reform Program 1 and Local Government Reform Program 2. But Local Government Reform Program 2 was on decentralization by devolution. In short, the overall objective of the reforms is to improve service delivery by making local authorities more democratic and more autonomous. That we need to make local government more democratic, that they have powers to make decisions. Decision on what? Administrative decisions, fiscal decisions. And they have autonomous on various democratic issues. We need to focus on that. So we had central local relations. We had local government reforms which focused on 4 main areas. Before we move to another stage of local government reforms and other administrative reforms in Tanzania, let's review what we have learned until now. That local government reforms in Tanzania had 4 main areas, and local government in reforms in Tanzania, they came in order to improve service delivery and make local government more autonomous and more democratic in their activities. And these 4 main areas that we have learned are political decentralization, financial decentralization, administrative decentralization, and central-local relations. Dear students, it is my hope that you are getting me very well, and if you are asked, you'll be now in the position of discussing these 4 main areas of local government reforms and reason for the local government reforms. Now, as we continue, let me invite you in another area which is about administrative reforms in Tanzania. Between 1970s and 1980s, Tanzania experienced an economic crisis that resulted into negative development of all sectors. The decline in employment opportunities, falling real income, and high rate of inflation. Tanzania experienced economic crisis between 1970s and 1980s, and the economic crisis resulted in decline of employment opportunities. Again, it resulted in fall in real income and high rate of inflation. As a result, the government decided to move into administrative reform. Now, all reform policies have to take into consideration Tanzania's long-term development framework. The Tanzania Development Vision 2025, which was published in 1998, Tanzania Poverty Reduction Strategy, known as National Strategy for Growth and Reduction of Poverty, and its Kiswahili acronym Mkukuta. The government decided to move into administrative reforms because of a number of crises which faced Tanzania between 1970s to 1980s. However, all reforms aimed at making sure that Tanzania develop, and that's why we have Tanzania Development Vision by 2025. Again, the reforms aim at making sure that there is poverty reduction. People are getting their basic needs and people are developing. But what are these reforms? One of the reforms was Civil Service Reform Program. The Civil Service Reform Program was officially launched in July 1991 and it ran until 1999. They shifted toward a free market economy where the private sector was to serve as the engine of growth. The program focused on cost containment and restructuring of the government. The Civil Service Program. Listen, previous, the government were conducting business. It was conducting a number of business, it was doing business and it aimed in some of getting the profit. So following the crisis that hit Tanzania between 1970s and 1980s, Tanzania decided to move into a civil service reforms, which started in 1991 until 1995. The reform aimed at giving the private sector power, also a number of issues to operate for the growth of the Tanzanians. During this period, some of the main changes included: 1. A redefinition of government roles and functions. 2. Local government decentralization program began. So the local government decentralization program, including local government reform, which we were discussing here, began between 1991 and 1999 during civil service reform. The executive agencies were created and non-core services were contracted out to private sector. The exercise reduced ministry departments and units by 25%. Again, the number of public service employees was significantly reduced from 355 in 1992 to 264 by the end of 1999. The salary level were also enhanced and more transparency and efficiency of pay structure was created in the government. However, despite the good intention of the civil service reform and other reforms, there were limitations on this. And some of these limitations are: first, the nature of the problem changed. Following significant downsizing and the achievement of macroeconomic stability, the need to impose further cost containment lessened. Second, Tanzanians moved towards political pluralism, which amplified citizen demand for improved service delivery. Political pluralism. They moved from one political party to a number of political parties that we see today started during civil service reform. Not only that, another limitation was that by their very nature, the civil service reform were painful to implement. The reforms impose significant hardship on general population. For example, through the imposition of cost-sharing arrangements. The civil service reform tells us that we need to share the cost. We need to share the burden. That if you want water, if you need water, if you need to take your child to school, if you need a better service delivery, a better hospital, if you need medical services, we need to share. That the citizens and the government needs to share. That's why you see nowadays we are sharing. That when you take water, when you use water, you pay. But the payments you pay are the shares that we need to get at least some of the fund to make sure that these development activities are proceeding. So that is another limitation. It posed a very painful to the citizens. And since the citizens were required to implement a cost-sharing arrangement, all these changes argued for a public service reforms initiated that would focus on intensively on service delivery improvement rather than cost cutting and be implemented by public servants within the structure of the government. Not only the civil service reform, but we also had the public service reform. The public service reform phase 1 was implemented between 2000 and 2007, and the public service reform phase 2 was implemented between 2008 and 2012. I invite all of you to get the materials of public service reform, civil service reform in this slides and read. You need to understand these issues. What were the aims of public service reform? Why did it started? Now we continue. Phase 1 installed a number of key management system and processes. A performance management system. The process included creation of strategic plans, action plans, and client service charter, the carrying out of service delivery survey and self-assessments, staff appraisal, and the establishment of monitoring and evaluation systems. That was public service reform phase 1. That the government wanted to make sure that there is a performance management system, that the people who are working within the public service are performing. How can we make sure that these people are performing? It is through having a performance management system. We need to sign a contract. There is a contract. Currently it is called an OPRAS, Open Performance Appraisal Review System, OPRAS. So OPRAS came in order to make sure that the employees who are employed within the public services are performing very well. Not only that, but there was a client service charter. How are we supposed to treat our clients? That people who are coming within the public service to seek the services, we call them as our customers. So the public service and the public servants, these people who are working within the public service, need to sign a contract or the client service charter. A performance improvement fund was established to allow ministries, departments, and agencies to access additional financial resources in support of strategic initiatives emerging from performance management system. More non-core services were outsourced to private sectors. The average pay of service or public service continued to rise steadily. Changes that were seen in public Service Reform Program 1 and Public Reform Program 2 are these: sustaining top leadership commitment to reforms, a shift toward performance accountability culture, overcoming resistance to change, harnessing the potential of ICT, effective ownership and drive of change programs by ministries, departments, and agencies. Dear students, I decided to put Civil Service Reform Program in your understanding and Public Service Reform Program in your understanding, in order you can see on how the public service operates, also and on how or on whether it has attained its intended objectives of the reforms. All these reforms are aiming at making sure that the citizens are getting better services. The citizens are developing. Before we come to the end of this topic, I would like to remind all of you in what we have learned today in Knowledge Area 4. In Knowledge Area 4, we have learned on Local Government Reform Program, which focused on 4 main areas. The first area, the administrative, the financial. As you can see them here, that we had the political, the financial, the administrative, and the central local relation. We have also passed a little bit on the Civil Service Reform Program and Public Service Reform Program. It is my hope that you have all enjoyed this session, which was session on Knowledge Area number 4, which was on Local Government Reform Program. But before we come to the end of this topic, I would like to leave you with a question for discussion. Is the objective of Local Government Reform Program 2 and Public Service Program 2 realized? Do you think that the Local Government Program 2, the Local Government Program and Public Service Reform Program, do you think that the objectives that were intended in these reform programs have been realized? Have they been attained? Do you think that they have been attained? Can you come up with practical examples on whether these objectives have either been attained or they have not been attained? Come up with practical examples and put your answers in the Moodle platform. Let's discuss together through Moodle on whether the objectives of these reform programs have been attained. Another question: discuss the extent of local government authorities' autonomy resulted from Local Government Reform Program. Autonomy of local government authorities which was resulted from Local Government Reform Program. I invite you all to come up with answers of these two questions and other questions that you might be having. Come up with those answers in the Moodle platform. It is my hope that we will discuss together through Moodle, and I will be there answering your question. If you'll be having any question, I will be there answering those questions. My dear students, the end of knowledge area number 4, maths, the coming of knowledge area number 5. Keep in touch. I will come again in another session with knowledge area number 5, which is about the local government finance. Thank you very much for listening to me.